You join us on the tidal River Ouse. We've just travelled down from Naburn and we've turned the boat ready to enter the lock at Selby. As usual, I'm a little nervous of these turns, so I'm hiding at the back of the boat hanging on to George. Michael makes the perfect manoeuvre into the lock and we get a very warm welcome from the lockkeeper and our local dog. We're soon raised up to canal level and we've decided to continue our journey rather than moor up at Selby for the night. Before we can go anywhere though, we need to pass through a swing bridge, so Michael stops the traffic and opens the bridge and I bring the boat through. We give George a little comfort break after a long morning on the river, which leads to a bit of an incident with a defective poo bag, but I won't go into details now. With Michael and George back on the boat, we've got about 6 miles to travel on the canal before we reach the River Aire. It's a grey day in Yorkshire, but the canal is really pleasant and there's lots of trees and vegetation and wildlife, but sadly very few boats. We pass this boatyard and then we're pretty much at the edge of town. Selby Canal opened in 1788 and some of these old brick canal bridges are really stunning. On the other hand, the modern road bridges aren't quite as pleasing to the eye. At this bridge we spot some CRT volunteers painting over the graffiti. At Braden there's some visitor moorings which look like a really pleasant place to stop. George still has his adventure jacket on from the tidal river, but as he's just turned 14, it's probably a good idea for him to wear it more often than not these days. This is an incredibly peaceful canal. At this point we meet a heron who we follow down the navigation for a while. We're nearing the end of the canal now and we pass under Paper House Bridge, but there's no sign of the paper house, only a brick house. There's one last set of visitor moorings just before the lock, where we find this rather unusual narrowboat moored. Michael's back on lock-keeping duty at West Haddesley Flood Lock, where we're joining the River Aire. The lock gates are huge, but at the moment the river is practically at the same level as the canal, so we can head straight out. There's a pontoon just round the corner where I stop to pick up Michael and George again. This is a very meandering river. Dole Lock is under 4 miles away as the crow flies, but by river it's over 6 miles. It's really sad to see this poor stranded boat. It was clearly moored here when the river was in flood, but I'd love to know the full story. We get to Beale Lock and Michael's still on locking duty. Then above the lock I get very confused by this gauge showing the river level. The river's quite low today, but I can't understand why there's green sections above the red sections. You can see just how the water was quite recently with all this debris left on the bridge stanchion. It's nice to see that there's not too much plastic left behind, it's mainly trees and vegetation. A few more twists and turns on this very grey day and we reach Dole Lock. The lock landing's by the side of the lock, so once I've dropped the boys off I need to reverse the boat back so I can enter through the gates. We'll be rejoining the river at Flood Ferry a few miles up. We've always found this section of the River Aire to be quite bleak, but Dole Lock has to be the bleakest, and the old lock cottage is desperately in need of some love. The lock chamber also stinks, and the surface is slick with pollution. It's a pretty sorry sight to be honest, and very depressing after all that lovely wildlife we met on the canal just a few miles back.